Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Armchair Booking Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host. My name is Steve Barber, and joining me, as always, is the wonderful co-host Waylon Davis.
Hey, everybody.
And we are in for a treat today. You heard us talk about him, and because he has a great podcast. They are trending #1 in Antarctica, #1 on MySpace, award-winning, and it is a great podcast. And I'm talking about the host, Ted The Hillbilly Heel. How are you, sir?
Doing good. Hey, glad to be here.
We're glad to have you. And, we were just talking even before we started rolling. I believe I heard about you because I think you actually shared our podcast. And I was like, well, you know what? I'm going to go listen to him. And I liked what I heard. So thank you so much for for your support. And we absolutely enjoy supporting you as well.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, I appreciate that. I really do. And like I was telling Dwaylen there, I'm a truck driver. So I'm in a truck 10 to 12 hours a day, and I listen to a lot of podcasts. And we seem to have been building a nice little community of just little small independent podcasts. And I try to support them, and they try, a lot of them support me back. And it's just, having fun because we're not the Jim Cornettes and the Chris Jerichos and have all the millions of downloads and all that. So we got to support each other.
Yeah, I'm happy to get like 1,000 downloads.
Yeah.
So how long have you been a wrestling fan?
Mid-late 70s.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, yeah. Yeah, I'll be, actually, tomorrow is my birthday.
Happy birthday.
I'll be 51.
51?
Well, thank you. Happy birthday. I'll be 51. So, so mid-late 70s is when I remember watching it. Because back in the day, all you young people there, in the 18 to 35 demo, they're watching this or listening. There used to be this little thing we call a dial on TV, and you just turned it, and it went from 2 to 13, and then there was a UHF that we never got anything. And now that 2 to 13, we might have got 4 channels, something like that, 5. So yeah, and the earliest wrestling I remember was ICW, Poffo, out of Kentucky. That's Macho Man before he was the Macho Man, and his brother Lanny and all them.
That's right.
And
yeah.
They would run spot shows in our high school, and I remember going to some of those, and that was my first memories. And then Mid-Atlantic was on Channel 2, so a lot of stuff that I watched growing up.
Oh, wow. Dwaylen, could you actually get the ICW out in Hopkinsville at the time?
Every now and then it would come through.
Okay. Yeah, because I started out watching Mid-Atlantic, and this is in 1984 because I was living in North Carolina at the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could get it every now and then, but not consistently.
Yeah, and then we had I don't remember how it worked. I just remember one day Dad brought a little box home, and then we had TBS, and then it was Georgia Championship Wrestling, 605, and then WCW and all that. But yeah, those were the earliest things. And I was a big PWI.
Yep.
Do yard work, whatever, to get enough money when we go to the grocery store. I was a PWI, and so that's how I would learn about all the other territories and all that stuff. So that's pretty much my early beginnings.
Oh, well, Waylon, it's like he's a brother from another mother.
I know, right? It's like sounds just like us.
Yep. Man, the stories are so similar. Wow. So, as far as the Hillbilly, the Hill Truth podcast, I enjoy it because you focus on something that not a lot of people really, I guess, pay attention to, because a lot of people don't want to go talk about the heels. Even nowadays, I mean, it's more acceptable, but and when the way you do it, you do such good analysis on it. And that's what I've always told people. I said, you've got to go listen to this, and because you've really broken it down. Now how did that start? How did that come about?
Well, I've always pulled for the heels. I was always a different one. I remember, I remember when Nikita Koloff came to WCW and everything. I liked him because everybody else hated him. And somehow, I know it wouldn't, because I know Jim Crockett didn't really have official merchandise, but somehow my mom found a yellow T-shirt with a Nikita on it. So it must have been from flea market and somebody bootlegged it or whatever. And I wore that like 3 days a week. And I just always gravitated toward the heel. The Four Horsemen. I have a Four Horsemen tattoo. I was just always loved the heels. So when I just, because I got out of wrestling, and then when I actually was probably around 2010, 2011, I couldn't take anymore, it seemed like, and I drifted out, and then I just really got back in with AEW. And being a truck driver, I was listening to a lot of stuff, but then I would listen to podcasts or sometimes radio or whatever, but it was like everything in the last couple of years was political. It didn't matter what it was just all political. And I just couldn't take listening to all that. So I'm like, I wonder if there's any wrestling podcast. And I found this whole universe that was just wide open. And my sons kept on telling me, well, you need this podcast. So I put it off. And a couple of podcasts that I was friends with on Twitter invited me on. And finally I said, I'm going to do it. But it was like, I got to do something different, because everybody and their brother has just a basic review show. And then it's like everybody has interviews. And I'm like, I don't really know a lot of people besides other people on Twitter. So there's enough people that have real good analysis of reviews. And I'm like, well, I love the heels. So I'm just going to break down and talk about heels. And the name of the podcast came from Arn Anderson. He was being interviewed, and he said there's the real truth, and then there's the heel truth. And, and basically heels stretch the truth. And
yeah,
so that's like, I'm going to give you all a little inside baseball. I'll just say, I started out, my debut episode was episode 100. If you pay attention.
You know what? I think I did notice that. Yep.
Okay, so have I got 99 episodes and not been published, or am I getting heel truth, and instead of 0, I started with 100? Long-term storytelling. A year or two, I'll explain it all. But, I started with 100. I'm number 1 in Antarctica. He said, well, prove it. I said, prove I'm not.
Oh.
So, yeah, it's the heel truth. I'm
Right.
not going to confirm nor deny that everything on my podcast, besides the analysis, is the truth.
Right.
I'll put it that way. I would say, leave it at that. So,
Oh, so as far as the heels go today, I know you just mentioned the other day, and I'm very inclined to agree with you about MJF being probably the number 1 heel in wrestling today.
Yes.
Yeah, because I think, Dwaylen, isn't that something we've also been saying?
Yes, we've been saying that for several months now. It's like,
yeah.
And I mean, the guy's only 25 years old. And I mean, if he keeps on this trajectory, I think he'll go down as one of the best heels ever, because he's got it. I mean, he's got it down.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And the thing I love about him is he is still old school, to where you when you see him in other interviews or on Twitter, you just have to sit back and think: is he kayfabe, or is he like that in real life? You know,
Right.
that
Right.
the old guys did. You know.
Yeah,
So
I've seen him in
that's what I
interviews and
really
stuff. Yeah.
appreciate.
I'm sorry, Ted. Repeat that.
Oh, I just said that I was agreeing with Wayne there that it's just one of those things to where he's just so good at it, and
Mhm.
he gets the legit heat.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think he cares if anybody likes him or dislikes him. I mean,
No.
because he reminds me. Well, I know some people said because CM Punk said he was something like the Miz. But the Miz knows how to draw heat. The Miz
Yeah.
is a great heel, just like Tully Blanchard. If you had to say some of the great heels, I always go to Tully Blanchard as being a great heel. How about yourself, Chad? Who would you say is like some of the greatest heels ever?
Oh, well, obviously the Horseman. Tully is one of those that legit had he even in the backstage. They said that not a lot of people liked him. Arn, and then even like when you go over to the WWF in the early days, the Rick Rude. I always loved Rick Rude as a heel. Jake the Snake Roberts, Mr. Perfect. I thought he was a great heel too. So some of those in that era, they just had an air about them. There was just something about them that, like you said, they didn't care. Now it's everybody wants to be loved on social media and on their Twitch channel and Instagram. And I understand it's a different time. You guys probably remember, and I know you guys talk basketball and different things at times. I look at today just like the NBA. Players are friends and hang out, and and nobody wants to be online. But I go back to the time that my favorite team, of course everybody loved Jordan, but my favorite team was the Bad Boys, the Detroit Pistons.
Mm-hmm.
They were the heels of the NBA, and they didn't care if you didn't like it.
No, they didn't care a
win
bit.
championships.
Yep.
Although
I think it's changed the landscape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still could have done without Bill Lambier though, but that's another story. So what in your mind makes a great heel, and do you think they should try to find a way to swing back to the not caring as much or being a heel even when they're out in public? But I can't think of another way to ask that.
Yeah. I understand it's tough now because the kayfabe has gone and they do have their own personal life, and it's sort of one of those fine lines about getting by. But the big thing I look for on screen is, you got to be able to talk. You got to be able to make it believable, and then what a lot of them have lost about being a good heel is you have to be able to make the face look good and at the same time make them look arrogant. Because the same formula of a baby face, and getting the comeback, and then you down, you want that heat, but then when it comes, even though face trial, is one of my favorites of today because they'll have a match on Dark or Elevation or just like a couple weeks with the Gun Club, and they make the Gun Club good. To sell and make other teams look good. So that's very important for a heel that they can do those type of things to make the other opponent look good, but then still look strong. And just like you were talking about the Miz and MJF and these people, if they lose by the next week, they will come up with a lie or come up with a story or blame somebody else, make you forget
Yep.
all about it. And then they keep on going.
And today I was listening to, I believe it was Arn's podcast, and they were going back and rewatching some of the clips from, I think it was 88. Yeah, it hadn't been 88. And it had Tully Blanchard coming out and attacking Magnum TA. And you got to think this is a couple years after the accident. And he said, you know, for 2 years, I've had to hear, I quit, I quit. I never said I quit. Now, technically, he's telling the truth. He actually did not say I quit, but, you know, but he still gave up. But I mean, I've always loved the way he spun that. You know, well, I didn't say I quit. And, you know, like you said, I mean, there's the real truth and there's the heel truth.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the heels always,
Yeah.
the heels always end up having a way of wording it to where it makes you sympathize with the heel. And it makes you think, well, maybe he is right. Maybe he has gotten screwed over, or maybe, you know, he hadn't got the opportunities he should have gotten. And it's like a good heel will have that way to just flip that switch and make you reconsider whether or not they were right or wrong.
Yeah. And even like this coming week, my going to be I'm starting a little series where I'm on about mid-card heels, and I'm starting out with the Butcher, the Blade, and the Bunny.
Okay.
Okay, so just like last night. So Wardlow beats the Butcher, but the Butcher did everything he needed to do.
Yeah.
And in a week or two from now, you will still think of him as a monster, and none of his credibility is lost.
Right.
And
everybody knew Wardlow was going to win that match, but
yes,
the Butcher made him look good and still look good in defeat. So, I mean, he did his job.
Yep. And that's the thing with him and the Blade and the Bunny. They're not going to probably be in the main event or the title picture, but they're going to do their job.
Yeah.
And they're going to they'll win some matches. They'll beat some people up, look tough, but they're still going to make the faces look good, just like the Bunny. I thought it was interesting. Toni Storm made her debut. Who did they choose to be the gatekeeper that they knew would give her a good match?
Yep, the Bunny.
Draw some heat and make her look good. The Bunny.
Mm-hmm. They did the same thing when Ruby Soho came in.
Yep.
One of her first matches was against the Bunny.
Yep. And you got to think, you know, she's not going to be probably winning the women's world title, but yet then look how Tony Khan did with the match that they had with the street fight with her and Penelope Ford against TJ. You know, her bleeding, her doing that. I mean, that's going to go down and she'll be cemented that, you know, she doesn't have to win a title. She can do that mid-card stuff, have some great matches, and still be and, you know, have a good life.
Yeah, absolutely.
For some reason, heel managers all of a sudden popped in my head, but I was also thinking, how many managers weren't heels? There's not many.
Can't even say Elizabeth, because I would have said Elizabeth, but no, she was with Flair and the Horsemen for a while, and then she joined the NWO, so you can't even say Elizabeth, so because she was eventually a heel.
The only one I can think of was what was the guy's name? Arnold
Skaaland. Yep. Arnold
Skaaland. One I
Skaaland.
can think of about all that.
Yeah.
And he did kind of a heel move
when he threw the towel in.
He did.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they said, well, what was it, like 10 years later when Backlund made his return, that they said he bribed scolding and the throwing the towel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, Judge Whalen, go ahead. I had questions and all of a sudden it just totally lost my mind.
Who is your, if you can pick one, because there's been so many great heels throughout the years, but who would you say is your favorite heel of all time?
Well, probably because I just love the Horsemen and stuff. I would go with any of those, Flair, Anderson, or Tully. Tully and Arm both were great, and then but just Flair, just there was just something about him. And that was the other thing I really like about Flair is because since I was more of an NWA, WCW guy, I was always more of a Flair and a Hogan guy. And I just liked how Flair didn't mind the lose, didn't mind the sell, and the people that he made their careers, like Ricky Steamboat, Sting, some of those, and just lifted them up. And even I think about with Hogan, even when Hogan come to WCW, that Eric Bischoff has said on his podcast that when they were making the deal and he was getting to know Hogan and trying him in, that one of Hogan's conditions was that he got to work with Flair because he was still starting those back issues and knew Flair would protect him.
Yeah.
Flair wouldn't make a bad guy. Flair would make him still look like Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
So that always stood out to me. That I just, and I know now that some stuff have come out about some of the even more extracurricular activities that we think about, but back in the day, he was the persona. He was the, limousine riding, jet flying, all that, and so, and on the mic, he was one of the best guys. So and also I loved Roddy Piper. I thought Roddy Piper, especially when he went to the WWF, I really liked Piper too. So that little group there would probably be my top ones of all time.
Okay.
Was there anybody who they were known primarily as a face that you think should have went heel because they would have been probably, even if they did go heel for a short time, but they should have stayed heel a lot longer?
I don't know about somebody that maybe stayed longer as a heel, but I always wondered what it would have been like if Ricky Steamboat would have come to heel. That he would have used the marks and some of the things like that and really, embraced the dragon and really been a heel. I always thought that would have been interesting because a lot of the other ones fit back and forth, and that was one that I always thought about. And probably, I was sort of, I guess in a way, maybe not stayed longer, but I thought it happened pretty good. But, it was almost anticipating when you had the Bret and Stone Cold double turn, WrestleMania. That, you could sort of tell Bret probably maybe he could have maybe even turned quicker, but the way they did it, it was good. And then probably the other one that, again, this is a fan thing is I wish, John Cena would have heel and just embraced it there when the fans were booing him and they were still doing the whole thing like they did with Roman and just keep pushing him and pushing him. I wish he would just have embraced it.
Yeah, because I mean, you see, like you said, they kept pushing Roman to be pretty much like the next Cena, and then the fans weren't buying it, and then he turns heel, and now everybody loves his heel work. And I agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
I think Cena would have been great in a heel role, especially as a heel champion.
Yeah.
I think Cena, though, one of the big reasons, and this is a legit reason, was because of all the Make-A-Wish stuff he does.
Yeah.
I mean, that's true, but I mean, Roman still does that stuff.
But nobody does it on the level of Cena, though.
Well, that's true. I mean, he's got
I mean,
he's granted the most wishes of anybody ever, but
Yeah.
I still think he could have. I still think the fans would have, because the fans wanted that so bad. I think everybody would have got behind a heel turn, and I think he still could have done his appearances and his, you know, and granted the wishes and everything, and I think people would have been fine to it, because people were just tired of that Super Cena where it didn't matter who you put in front of him, he just ran through everybody. And that got old to me. My son loved it. Of course, he was, 12, 13 at the time, but it's like, for me, it was just like, can he just turn heel already so we can, so he can do something else and be a little more interesting?
And, speaking of Make-A-Wish, there was somebody who is, well, pretty much known as being a heel, and it wasn't even a wrestler, but the kid wanted to meet Jason Voorhees.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've actually seen a picture where there's a guy, he is Jason Voorhees, I mean, with the machete and everything, but just talking with this kid. That's who he wanted to, meet, was Jason Voorhees. And so,
Hey,
you know what? I mean, if it made the kid happy, go for it. So
that's all that matters.
Yeah.
And man, that actually, there's a question for you right there. Because we think of heels, we kind of think they're the villains. And so now if you want to look at movies, who do you think are some good movie heels, movie villains that could probably maybe translate that into something in the wrestling ring?
Well, see, that's the thing that I talked about a little bit on one of my first episodes about the anti-heel. Pop culture, I even said in wrestling, when NWO came in, that it became okay to cheer the heels. And then as pop culture has also changed, even with movies, sometimes that instead of black and white, we have these shades of gray, like somebody like Deadpool or Wolverine, and some of these are not always by the book, but, and even Batman gets his little dark side in every now and then, and some of these others. So it's a little different, when you think like, just like the Rick Joke movie that came out,
Yeah.
He was terrorizing the people, but then at the end you had people dressing up like him and cheering for him and stuff like that. So it's like our whole culture has changed like that now, that and even like horror stuff, there's the culture where it's like, oh man, I love boys or something like that, and people sort of where we look at things different, and it might be interesting. That's the thing about movies and like. And I do like some of the villains, and like I don't know if you ever, which I'm trying to think of you guys or another podcast that I heard, watched it, Justified.
So I said again,
Justified.
Justified. Yeah, I like that show. That's a really good show.
Okay. Yeah. So the boy.
Yeah.
It's odd sometimes. So I think culture is changing, and
hey Ted, you're breaking up some, buddy.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you a little bit better now. Yes.
Okay. Let me see here. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's it's just the whole culture thing. sometimes it's hard to define the villains in the movie that they're not really a true villain. You know, that's why I still go back to, MJF in wrestling, because he's going to get the booze, and the announcers say they can't stand him and everything else. So it's just different times we live. That's why, especially wrestler or even actors or actresses or whatever, you have to do something different to set yourself apart to get noticed.
And there was something, I think it was in Foley, his first book, and he was talking about, I think it was either Ole Anderson or Dutch Mantell, one of the two, who kind of sat him down and was telling the story. He said that somebody walked across, there was an angel who was caring for this demon, this devil that had hurt itself, and the angel was kind of nursing back to health. Said, "Well, what are you doing? What are you nursing back to health?" He said, "Because without him, there is no me."
Right.
And he said the point of the story was that in order for somebody to look like the superhero, you have to have somebody to be the villain.
Yep.
So that's always kind of stuck with me.
Jake Roberts was said in an interview one time, he told the story about how this traveler found this snake that was half dead and nursed it back to health, and then the snake bit him, and it's like, why would you do that? Because I took care of you and nursed you back to health. He's like, I told you at the beginning I was a snake. Never trust a snake. And it's like, that's like the best heels will draw you in, and then they'll bite you. And it's like, what did you expect? I mean, they're healed. That's what they're going to do.
Yeah. That's not my. I'm gonna get all these followers and fame and riches, and then I'm gonna turn on everybody. I mean,
Right.
what did you expect?
Right. Yep. especially the heels, that they'll tell you what they're going to do, and then it's like you don't believe them. Then they do it, and it's like, oh my God, I can't believe you did that. And it's like, I told you before I started how it was going to go.
And one of the things that just kind of popped in my mind about somebody turning heel was, I believe it was around 98, 99, when all of a sudden Dusty Rhodes turned heel and joined the NWO. Now, I was never convinced, because Dusty had been such a fiery hot baby face, for decades by that point. He had never gone heel since he turned face back in the late 70s.
Yeah.
So were there some, Ted, for you, that when they turned heel, it was hard for them to convince anybody, because it's almost like they couldn't pull it off because it just didn't make any sense?
Yeah, because to be honest, towards the end of all that run, when everybody was part of the NWO, I was tired of it. I mean, I really was. It was everybody was a heel, everybody was NWO, and it was just WCW is supposed to be the baby person. Okay. Can you hear me now?
It's still breaking up a little bit.
Still breaking up?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on 1 second.
All right.
Okay. Is that any better?
Maybe a little. It's still, there's
Or is it background, or is it just?
It had a picture up just for a second, and then it went black, and there you are.
Now, good.
It's still kind of, it sounded kind of robotic still. But we do like the picture you have on there.
Yeah.
this? Is this any better?
Yes. What do you think, Dwayne?
Okay.
Yeah.
Better? Okay. Sorry about that.
Oh no, you're fine.
Technical difficulties. Okay.
Happens to the best of us.
Yeah,
What-
we need to
what-
get your producer on this.
Yeah, I do. I need to get Daniel on this.
Yeah.
NWO. Okay, WCW should have been the baby faces.
hmm
NWO were the invaders. And did WCW ever get a payoff?
No.
No, they didn't.
No.
Mm-mm.
No. You can have everybody join the NWO and be the heel, and the baby face never get a payoff.
Right.
It just got out of control. So like Dusty, all those, it was by that time, I at the beginning of the Monday Night Wars, I would tape one and watch the other and go back and forth, and I was just in love with it. But towards the end there, I was spending more time watching the Attitude Era and what was going on in WWF, and because it was just getting crazy, and it was just wasn't good television.
Right. Yeah. The NWO just kind of fizzled out and just kind of faded away. And then, they try to bring it back and it just didn't work. But like you said, WCW never got any payoff. So it's like they just dropped the story, and that was the main story for years was NWO versus WCW, but there's no payoff. So it's like, and the heels didn't win because they didn't truly take over. The baby faces didn't vanquish the heels. So you just ended up with nothing.
Had a nice stalemate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I had to throw the chess term in there because Dwayne and I we have a chess background.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But one of the things when the NWO, when it started ballooning up like that, it looked like people who were in a bodybuilding competition and they kept stepping in front of each other, for the camera.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, this ring literally is not big enough for everybody.
Yeah.
Because there was just too many of them. Like and it's going to turn people off. And eventually it did turn people off.
Yep.
Yeah. It was just too much. And then, you have the NWO A team and B team at first, you had the main ones, and then you had Disco Inferno and all those that would come down and take the beating. And then, so it was just, it was good in the beginning, but then it just, like I said, it fizzled out, and there was and see, that's the whole thing. I don't mind, I knew MJF was going to lose the dog collar match.
Yeah.
The fans needed a payoff for Punk, and exactly. I knew he was going to lose, but he shrugged it off.
Yeah.
He can say I beat Punk twice in one night, so I'm really up 2-1. Same thing with Jericho, and Jericho beat him at the pay-per-view, but he'd beaten him all the other times, so it was okay.
And then plus he can say that the only reason Punk beat him is because Wardlow gave him the ring. And there's always a true heel always has an out. It's like always they always have a way out of a loss, and the way they do it, like MJF looks stronger in defeat than he would have if he'd beat Punk.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. By the way, now your connection is like crystal clear.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
thank you.
Yep. Yeah, your producer's doing a fantastic job. So kind of off the heel question necessarily, how does one become number one in Antarctica? Because we need to know this because we're trying to expand our audience.
Yeah, we're trying to reach that level.
Just right now, I've just found, just like what I've been doing, because, I've been told since I just do the audio platform and I'm not on YouTube and I don't do anything else, I'm not on Facebook. I've read some articles and talked to some other podcasters, and I found 2 articles that said this, that unless if you are one of the major podcasters, that if you have on a consistent basis, when you drop an episode within the first 7 days, if you have 26 listeners, you are in 50% of all the podcasts in your category. That's all it takes is 26 listeners. And then I heard another one that said, because since podcasts last, YouTube, you can get a clip out in 5-10 minutes.
Right.
But a good podcast is going to last 40 minutes, an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And to get somebody invested in that for that long a time, another article I read, or maybe somebody else was telling me, I can't remember, but they said another gauge is if the number of people that listen to your podcast on a regular basis can fill up your living room, that's a W.
Okay.
So what I've been doing is, and from what my little analytics that I've been seeing, I've actually surprised at the numbers I've got, and it's just doing the thing like I've been doing, retweeting, supporting other podcasts, and they support me back. And then I look on the little data thing and I find out I'm getting listeners because, of course, besides Antarctica, which will always be my home away from home, it was the U.S. and then Canada and the U.K., and they would flip-flop back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
Well, over the last 2 weeks, Italy and the Czech Republic have jumped ahead of Canada and the UK. And I have no clue. I don't even know if there's anybody from Italy or the Czech Republic on Twitter that I know. But they popped up there. And then I felt, you get just all these other little countries that pop up, and it's like, I guess somebody's listening and liking it, and that's all I've been doing and that's the other thing. I've not tried to get too bogged down with the numbers. I mean, I'll look at them, but at the end of the day, even if nobody listens, I enjoy talking, and I can do it, and I like it, and so I'm just going to talk about something that I have a passion for, and hopefully people will like it. And we'll see. We're gonna play around with a few things, like I've had the guest on, and I know like you guys have had some different guests on, and doing this stuff. What's his name? King Titan.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, and you guys working with independent wrestling things there in your area, and that's something that I'm getting ready to start doing. That I'm going to try to talk. We've got a little indie promotion in our area, and I want to talk to them some and maybe get some of their wrestlers on. But the only problem with them, they have a Facebook page and they show some stuff, but they have a YouTube channel, but nobody's updated it in like a year. So it's hard to see their matches, but they've got a show tomorrow night, or not tomorrow night, Saturday night, that I'm thinking about going to, because actually Fuego del Sol is going to be there.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So I'm thinking about that. Then there's another one in South Carolina that I went to that they're really neat because my wife, they're just right across the border of South Carolina. And I want to go down and maybe try to get involved with them some too, and talk to them and do some interviews. What they do is like charity stuff, like a lot of high schools and different things, so that all their shows, a part of the proceeds are going to that charity that's sponsoring the event. So, and 2 of the regulars down there are Griff Garrison of the Varsity Blondes.
Yeah.
He's a regular. And the guy that's on Dark sometimes and Elevation, he used to have, I call it the Dragon Ball hair, the big blonde hair that stuck up. I forget his name, but he's been on Dark and Dark Elevation some. And last month, right after Jeff Hardy debuted, they wrestled. The Hardy Boys were at that show, and they've got FTR coming next month.
Yeah, I
to
knew
their
FTR
show.
was coming. Is that the one that Bret Hart is going to be managing them?
No, that one I think is somewhere in the Northeast, but this one's down there. So yeah, it's so that's what I'm trying to do is just reach out and be supportive. And I'm always one of those that believe if you do good for others, good things are going to happen to you. So I'm just going to try to support everybody and hopefully get some listeners and stuff like that. And at the end of the day, whether anybody listens or not, you'll never know it because I'll be honest, I've seen some, people at times with their YouTube channel, complain about subscribers or listeners. I hope I never get to that because, again, it's the heel truth. Right. So no matter how good or bad I'm doing, you're going to think that I'm bigger than Chris Jericho, that I'm bigger than Jim Cornette because, that's the heel truth, know. So.
Yeah. And I think your support it certainly has helped us.
Yes.
And so, I mean, we always like to give that love back to yourself. And there's another podcast. Another wrestling. Well, they're kind of sports, but they do focus a lot on wrestling. This TNC Sports Talk. Those guys are great. So, I mean, anytime I'm between, I try to mention you. I try to mention them.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, because we say, look, he has a great show, and and I first saw Dwaylen, I was like, you've got to go listen to this. I mean, I've never heard like the analytics put quite like the way you put it. So yeah, you definitely got an original product. I mean, that's for sure. And that's something that we definitely appreciate is originality.
Yes.
Well, I really appreciate that. And then, what I've been doing is wanting to return the favor. So I'll go ahead and tell you on the air that here in the next few months, I'll have you on my show, if y'all want to come on.
You.
And
absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
And, that's the thing. I just enjoy this, just getting to talk about wrestling. And because, I love my wife and I think she can hear me. I love her with all my heart. We've been married 30 years, been married a long time. But her and her family and some other people, they say, that wrestling's fake, right? And I'm like, that's not the issue.
Yeah.
That's not the thing. No. I said, there's storytelling. Because she gets mad because obviously, and I'm not trying to knock WWE, but I think some of their writers that they have, those 25 or 40 writers, used to work at the Hallmark Channel. Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Because my wife can put on a Hallmark movie and I'll come over and she gets mad because I'll watch just maybe 5 minutes of it. And I've already told her the story and the ending.
I do the same thing with my wife because she watches the Hallmark Channel, and I tell her, I'm like, there's only 6 plots. It doesn't matter what movie it is. They cycle 6 plots. That's it. And
yes,
like you said, within 5 minutes, I can tell you what's going to happen.
Yep, and they all have a dog.
So
yeah.
So I think some of those writers, that's what I said. And I said, but now yours, I can tell you, but I said, again, every now and then you get a swerve, but I said, right now there's some good stories going on in some different wrestling promotions,
Yeah.
I've told her that this right now, the other one I love, we were talking about heels, and I forgot to mention, I really love what Matt Cardona is doing.
Oh yeah.
Me too. That.
Yeah.
He showed that somebody can make a living and a good living without being in a major promotion.
Yep.
And he's basically keeping the WWE persona and just taking it to all these places that don't like the WWE.
Yeah.
And he's just amping it up. And it's just great.
And he's also like throwing it in WWE's face. It's like, I told you I was a main event guy. If you'd have just given me the chance, I could have showed you.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
I think right now he's got 7 different championships with different promotions, including the NWA world title. And it's like,
Yep.
Yeah,
yeah,
he's
that
got
one right there.
that belt right there.
Yes.
And yeah, I agree. Matt Cardona, his work, especially in GCW, from what I've seen,
Mhm.
his heel work has been phenomenal. And it's like that's what I like about AEW and New Japan and Impact and all the other companies outside the WWE bubble. Guys are allowed to go out and do that kind of work. They're not restricted to that confinement that people are restricted to in WWE.
The confinement that they're confined to. Yep.
Yeah, the confinement of the asylum that they're in is pretty much it. Because it's like you were saying, there's like 25 writers, and everything's so micromanaged that nobody gets to show what they're really capable of doing. It's like you're just going to be in this little box here, and this is what we need you to do, and this is all we want you to do, and don't get over unless we say you can get over. And it's just, I'd rather see a guy go out and just tear up the indies at like Matt Cardona's doing and just build himself up.
And WWE, they're like, oh, don't worry, you're losing this week. Don't worry, you'll win next week.
Yeah, because
it's
50-50 booking, which kills any kind of story.
And because Ted, I think you put it best when you got to talking about the Panthers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that analogy. Because they.
Yeah, I mean. Yeah, I mean, that's what I was saying on that episode was when we moved down here, right after we moved down here, the Panthers became a team. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to pull for the Panthers. And, they'll have a playoff run here and there. But for the most part, when you think Carolina, you think 8-8 or 9-6 or 9-7 or 7-9, and yeah, they're okay. But because when you're 8-8, you're not going to get a great draft pick.
Nope.
So you're not going to be able to rebuild for the next year. I'd rather you go 0-16 and then pop back up and jump from worst to first. But staying in the middle of the pack, it's going to be hard to get anything.
Yeah.
Or be like the Browns. Apparently, there's news coming out now saying they tanked that season on purpose.
Yeah, I've been reading that. Not a good look.
Nope. And or being here because I live near Cincinnati now. I mean, everybody's all about the Bengals and Houday, and I'm a Raiders fan. So, Raiders been ever since they went to the Super Bowls. I mean, they've just stayed, in the middle or at the bottom. They've had 2 years we went to the playoffs, and they got beat by the Bengals this past season in the playoffs. But a lot of fans, they'll say, "Oh yeah, I like the Bengals," but when the Bengals aren't doing good, they're like, "Bengals who? What?" And so you get a lot of that. And I know I knew everybody became Panthers fans the year that they went to the Super Bowl. All of a sudden, because my dad had lived in North Carolina for the majority of his life, and so he was always a Dallas fan until the Panthers all of a sudden went to the Super Bowl that first time. Now all of a sudden everybody there is a Panthers fan.
Yeah.
It's kind of like everybody in Hopkinsville all of a sudden became Titans fans the year they went to the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah. And there was something else. Well, once again, I'm thinking dementia is creeping in on me. So, had questions. Sorry, it's kind of a long day at work too. But anyway,
that's all right.
What did you think of? I listened to. Okay, the Blackpool Combat Club.
Yes.
With the match with John Moxley and Wheeler Yuta. Personally, I thought that they told an amazing story because they've been building to this. And I thought the match was great. Of course, Jim Cornette hates everything that's AEW. So
he does. He
tore it apart on his podcast. But even the Brian, that's his co-host, said that he liked it. I was wondering, what did you think of that match and how they went about building up Wheeler Yuta?
Oh, I love how they have done with Wheeler Yuta, because you that's the thing that I've really liked about AEW. They've talked about the pillars.
Mhm.
Sammy, Darby, uh, MJF, and Jungle Boy.
Yeah.
But they've already got the next crop also right there.
Yeah.
After that, you've got Lee Moriarty.
Mhm.
You've got Wheeler Yuta. You've got Daniel Garcia.
Yeah.
You've got those next group that's already there. And Wheeler, he was just that slow burn. And I
Mhm.
love that. And, they didn't do it. But I know when I went to, we're Columbia. I got to go to the Dynamite in Columbia a couple of weeks before that. And there was even people when Wheeler was wrestling then. I forgot if he wrestled on Dynamite or Rampage, but they were yelling at it, just insanely for Wheeler Yuta.
Yeah.
And that's how you build stars like that. And I love the Moxley match because he didn't have to win. He
Right.
got over without going over. And
Exactly.
that was the great thing about it.
Yeah. Cornette was saying like that they should have done. He's like, well, think of what would happen if they'd have done that with Adam Page, Hangman Adam Page or Adam Cole or a couple other guys. None of those other guys needed that kind of rub because
No.
Adam Cole is already a superstar. Hangman Page had already built his story from the day AEW opened the doors. Those guys didn't need that rub. Wheeler Yuta was an unknown commodity that needed that kind of build. And like that match with Moxley, I was sitting there watching it saying, this is how you build a star. This is what you do. And like you said, he didn't need to win, and he didn't win, but he got over and became a star because he hung in there with Moxley and took a beating that some of those other guys wouldn't be able to take.
Yeah, and just like Daniel Garcia, he comes out. He's supposed to be this great technical wrestler.
Mhm.
He's getting in this thing with Eddie Kingston, and they keep having all these matches, and then he surprises everybody and tells Jericho, I'm a sports entertainer too.
Yeah.
And he's getting this rub.
Yeah.
But he's going to, he loses to Kingston, but he's still looking good. Now, my prediction is eventually down the road, just as when Jericho had the inner circle and Sammy was one of the first ones that sort of fell out with him there. And, they kicked Sammy out and then MJF. I can see down the road Daniel Garcia turning and saying, you know what? I'm not a sports entertainer. I'm a wrestler.
Yeah.
And then he wrestles a match with Jericho and gets a big rub and gets an even bigger push and things like that.
Yeah. Daniel Garcia, I've watched some of his. I watched a match. It was Limitless Wrestling. It was him and Lee Moriarty. Oh Lord, that was so good. Though, Steve, I'll have to send you that match.
Okay.
It was fantastic, and Daniel Garcia is already a technical marvel. And I mean, this is a guy who broke both legs and was told he'd never wrestle again, and came back and has become just this amazing technical wrestler. To me, he is a perfect blend, not size-wise, but technique. It's like if you combine Bryan Danielson and Samoa Joe, like that killer instinct with that amazing technical ability. And no, and his nickname is Red Death, which I love that. I love that nickname. So, but yeah, I agree with you. He's going to be one to watch.
And then also you think, okay, when they get the Ring of Honor, wherever it lands on TV or whatever, you had Lee Moriarty wrestling Jay Lethal in the Super Card.
Yep.
And he's been showing up with that. So he may be on that program some and be getting the rub with Jay Lethal and Samoa Joe and some of them. So you've just got all these young guys that are going to be in these programs. That's what you use veterans for. You use veterans in tag teams and to shine these and to make them look good. You know, that it's a, you know, like that was the thing which I know that he is the new heel flavor of the month for Vince, and I think they're going to push him. But like, what was Austin Theory's gimmick? To come out and beat up a legend.
Yep.
And take a selfie.
Yep.
There was no build up to it. He just beat him up, and then it was 50-50 booking with him, and now he's beaten Finn Balor more times than I can count, and he's a U.S. champion. But
right.
And Vince obviously is going to push him, and I think he's got some great heel tendencies, and I think he can be a good heel. But for a young guy, there just needs to be, like when he first started out, who's like, wouldn't it when he first come up to the main roster, was it AJ or somebody, or who was it he first?
I think it was Jeff
done
Hardy,
something with.
I think it was.
Oh yeah, Jeff
Hardy. Yeah.
You know, you could have used, like right now with Jeff and Matt, you can tell that, you know, Matt has said on his interviews and podcasts and stuff that he took Private Party under his wing, and he thinks of them as his own children in real life.
Yeah.
So, you know, him and Matt, or Matt and Jeff, are going to wrestle Private Party in these different matches, try to give them the rub and elevate them. And that's what I wish the WWE would do more of sometimes, because I'm hoping that, you know, I noticed they've been bringing a lot of the veterans down to NXT. So I'm hoping maybe they can work something with that to do something. I don't know. I just get so confused, and I try to watch WWE so I can talk about it, but sometimes it's hard. It just is.
It really is. I tell Steve all the time, I just watch the clips on YouTube so I can keep track of what's going on. Because like Monday Night Raw is a chore to sit through, and it's gotten to the point where SmackDown's not much better. I do watch the pay-per-views, but for me right now, AEW is just the better product, and not everything they do is perfect. No, and no wrestling company is going to just be perfect from top to bottom, but they put on a more entertaining show consistently week to week than WWE does. And with, you know, and WWE's got 7 hours of television a week, and AEW's got 3, and they week to week than WWE does.
And one of the things, and I think we've actually hit on this as Wells Whalen, was we always say AEW, they build the stories to support the action in the ring, whereas WWE, they have kind of stuff in the ring to support their stories that they have going on.
Yeah. The wrestling is just an afterthought to build their story. And, you know, all 3 of us are pro wrestling fans, and we know that you tell the story in the ring. And WWE is like, it's like they've forgotten how to just let the wrestlers go out and tell a story in the ring. It's like, well, we've got this big elaborate program we want y'all to do, but we want you to talk about it more than you just actually wrestle and tell the story that way.
Yeah. It's like, hey, you guys in the Revival, what we're going to do is, all right, I want you to stand there. Here's a razor. Here's some shaving cream. All right, now start shaving his back, and we're going to have the Usos walk in. That's going to be the catalyst for the fight.
Yeah. That's the whole feud is that. Well, you look at Punk and Eddie Kingston, they had one promo. They had one promo with each other on Dynamite. That's all you needed was to build that story. And then the match itself at the pay-per-view told the complete story from start to finish.
Yep. So, and that's why in indie wrestling, they don't have those kind of resources to show like these elaborate videos and everything. They leave, for the most part, the stories are in the ring.
Yeah.
You know, if there's anything outside the ring, it means that action spilled out outside the ring, and everybody's still up. You try to still watch it. So, but anyway, so if anybody wanted to get a hold of you, you know, your social media, because obviously you're on Twitter. Yeah. Are you on Facebook, Instagram, any of those as well? So just strictly Twitter?
Just Twitter. That's going to be my gimmick.
Okay.
I'm just yeah, I'm just gonna refuse to go to the other ones. I'm just gonna refuse it. That's gonna be my gimmick. Yeah, I'm just right now. I'm on Twitter at Hillbilly Heel. That's where my personal stuff and all my podcast stuff. Because you want me to tell you a secret? I'm gonna tell you all a secret.
All right. This won't go out to anybody.
Okay, this one, nobody hear this. Okay.
Right.
So maybe it's a cheat code. I've played a few video games in my life. My children, my boys have showed me. I know what a cheat code is. But I'm starting since it's just me and I don't have a host, I'm like, okay, I'm going to start the podcast. And then I'm like, well, do I really need a separate account for my podcast when I've already got a pretty decent following? So I'm like, nah, I'm just going to leave it all with me, so yeah, everything's at Hillbilly Heel. Yeah, we don't have nothing else right now. We're, my wife tells me that all the kids are into Pinterest. So maybe one day I'll get a Pinterest page. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what my wife tells me. She's on Pinterest a lot, so must be true. But yeah, that's it. And right now, Google, Spotify, Apple for the podcast. And I try to release a new episode every weekend, either on Saturday or Sunday. And every now and then I'll throw in a little bonus episode during the middle of the week. Just something just short, like the last one I had to do an episode after FTR versus the Briscoes. I had to talk about that because that was just one of the greatest tag team matches. And then FTR goes and has a great match with the Young Bucks. It's another one, and I'm like, I'm exhausted. So it's
yeah.
And then this coming week on Dynamite with Dax versus Cash for the Owen qualifier.
Yep.
Really?
Just yes.
Wow. I mean, I have been.
Yeah, Dax. Dax tweeted, "First time, only time."
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, because I mean, I've been so preoccupied lately with all sorts of just stuff. I've missed quite a bit of action, and because everybody's talking about the Moxley match with what was his name?
Wheeler Yuta.
Yeah.
Everybody's talking about that, so I'm like, I need to go watch this match because apparently it's like the hottest thing since Sunburn.
Oh yeah, it's good. It's really good.
Oh wow. Oh yeah. Well, you're only on Twitter, but what's amazing is that means you're only social media and you're still trending #1 on MySpace.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. That somehow I'm over on MySpace and I don't even know how that happened. But they love me there for some reason, and I was trying to do a music video for the podcast and get it on MTV. But then they told me MTV doesn't do music videos anymore.
Oh, I don't even think VH1 does music videos anymore.
Yeah, so it's like it's music television. What happened?
Yeah. Yep.
Well, back in the day when I know we'd go home and it'd be Dial MTV, Hard 30, Yo MTV Raps.
Yep.
All three of them.
And then Headbangers Ball. On the
weekend. That's what I said. Midnight on 12 o'clock. I had to be home.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. I know you love me, honey, but I gotta have you home to your mommy and daddy's by 11:30 because I gotta watch Headbangers Ball.
Yeah.
And and you'll be the first person to hear about this. We are actually switching our hosting platform from Block Talk Radio to Spreaker. That's actually literally happening right now. You're actually going to be the first episode that I upload directly to Spreaker.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So I'm having to get the word out to everybody. Hey, you're going to have to change your subscription. I mean, it'll look like no episodes are uploading. No, what you got to do is unsubscribe and then go do a search and then resubscribe.
Okay.
So yeah, because just for a lot of reasons. For one thing, it's cheaper. it's half the price, and they have so many more options than Block Talk. Yeah, but Block Talk has been a good
Okay.
run. You know, Block Talk's been a good run, but it is, you know, it's time to move on.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, see, that's where I had no idea how to get into this, and it seemed like a bunch of the podcasts I listened to had the little ad that said use Anchor, it's free. And
yeah.
I'm like, hey, okay, I'll go with Anchor. And so far it's been okay, so I can't complain. So,
You know, I've heard a lot of good things about Anchor. So, and I've also just started a brand new podcast myself. And Dwaylen also has some social media stuff he does with him and his wife.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so we're very busy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we've decided we're basically between us, we're building an empire of social media. Of,
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, great.
podcasts.
Great. I'm happy for you. I hope that you rise up to the top, because it will be such an honor and a pleasure of mine, not only to say that I knew you when you guys were just starting out, it'll be even more satisfying when my media empire takes over yours. And, you know, it'll be, I appreciate it. You know, it means something,
yeah.
you know.
You know, we
This is long-term storytelling.
Exactly.
You know, we're setting the seeds right now for, you know, the main event. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what it is.
But absolutely though, this is not going to be the only time you're going to be on here.
Oh,
you
no.
know, yeah, because
Anytime.
yeah, this has been real. So, just let me know whenever you want to make arrangements for us to come on yours, and
I will.
you know, we'll keep pushing you, you keep pushing us, and we're all rising to the top
Absolutely.
together. So,
Absolutely.
but until we can meet again, God bless.
God bless.
God bless.